I've often wondered, do I do enough? I came into the world the fourth of 4 children born in 5 years to my parents. I spent part of my childhood in Canada, and we moved often enough that I attended 5 grade schools. My siblings and I were a tribe of sorts when we were young, relying on one another for friendship and play in the gaps between making new friends. After school, we could roam the woods and the neighborhood. And when summer arrived, we came inside to eat and sleep only if we could be cajoled into doing so. So I came of age completely at home in nature, perhaps more than any other place. I headed out at the age of 19 to backpack through Europe. I was alone for much of that time and loved discovering who I might be apart from my family of origin. It was during that trip that I decided to attend nursing school, a spur-of-the-moment decision like many in my life. Before starting the nursing program, I spent a summer doing volunteer work in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where Doug, the man who became my husband, was also a volunteer. All that work and travel ripened in me an appreciation for other cultures and viewpoints, other ways of living life. There were years after college where our lives were richly fed by new ideas and wonderful teachers, both at the Chinook Learning Center, now the Whidbey Institute, and a brief time living at the Findhorn community in northern Scotland. In all that travel and listening to brilliant men and women share their thoughts about living in our changing world, I was listening for wisdom outside myself about how to live. Children came, and with them, the cataclysmic shift of becoming a parent. I turned my attention to caring for my daughters, Sarah and Megan, my home, and my garden. And then I became sick, hardly able to function sick. That's a story in itself, but one with a completely unexpected outcome for me. I found myself inside knocking to get out. Well, perhaps a more accurate image would be pounding to get out. One image, one experience stands out more than any other during that challenging time. One night, I had a lucid dream. I was in a place where I saw 2 doors. One was an ordinary refrigerator door, and the other was a hideously lime green, tiny refrigerator door. I knew I was to open one of those doors, and it was a most important decision. But I usually did what made sense and would have gone with what was familiar. I knew I was to open that strange small door. When I did, the vast cosmos was there, stars and galaxies, infinity. I began to write and ask questions and expect to hear answers with an inner sense of guidance, a practice I still maintain. Another definitive experience happened during those years. I was on Iona, a small island off the coast of northern Scotland, at a women's retreat. And I spent some hours sitting in a small circle of stones that had perhaps been a foundation for a cell for some monk or nun hundreds of years before. As I sat listening to the Atlantic Ocean crashing against the rocks and heard the wind rustling the dried blades of grass, I became aware of my kinship with those who had come before and those who would come after me, and also with the earth that held my small seated self. Just as the majesty of the cosmos in the earlier dream held my smallness as a part of the whole. Now, my one life was extraordinarily felt as connected to the whole earth, to all life. I'd like to say I knew who I was and what I should be doing with my life at that point, but I'm a slower learner than that. I returned to work as my daughters grew older as a public health nurse and have spent over 20 years working with families on Whidbey and more recently in Everett. For several years, part of my work was making home visits to pregnant and postpartum immigrant and refugee women. I've spent hours in freezing cold and swelteringly hot apartments, many with 2 or more families sharing the space. My awe at the lives these women have led continues to swell. They've shared stories which would have broken me had I lived them, yet here they are, beginning again, resilient and strong. They love their children mightily, enough to leave possessions and all that is familiar behind. They express joy and gratitude for the mundane. Many who might be considered uneducated in our culture speak or understand 3 or more languages. I found myself leaning toward what they had to teach me through the example of their fierce pride and their determination. In the last years of my nursing career, my specialty as a lactation consultant has given me the opportunity to help new mothers learn to breastfeed their newborns. At a time when women are exhilarated, exhausted, sometimes shattered by the unexpected, it's been a privilege to be present during that sacred time of bonding. For many women, the absence of family and friends nearby to help leaves a gaping hole. As I support and help to problem solve as a surrogate auntie, perhaps it is the hug or a few simple words of reassurance that make the biggest difference. These last years have been among the most fulfilling of my career. Still, I would look around and judge my life in contrast to friends and neighbors who start one organization after another to help others, powerful, impressive works. And I would wonder again, does my life add up to enough? This self-judgment is finally fading away. I believe I have my grandchildren to thank for the place of peace I now find myself. Caring for Adeline, my now 5-year-old granddaughter, one day a week, I would stop and just be with her. She needed a body near in order to nap, and again I would place her on my chest and let her sleep and remind myself, we're all just mammals after all. We just need each other and a place of peace. Be present to this little one. Help her know she's safe and loved. Now with Ingrid, my second grandchild, I do it all again. But this time, with my mother recently passed, a more profound understanding that we live and we die, and every single moment is a gift. I am coming to understand the importance not so much of what I do and accomplish, but who I am in the doing and accomplishing. Working in my garden, holding a newborn baby, listening to sacred music, there's a settling in me. And there's some kind of recognition I can't explain. It's a letting go of my thought of me to the truth of me. In these times, thankfully, more frequent now, who I am is just right, enough. I don't need to do more or try to be more impactful in the world. I just need to harmonize my energy with those I am with and with my surroundings. Then, what I am meant to give and be is unmasked, accessible to others. And then, I am enough. Thank you.